In the last class yesterday, I had stopped at HTML. Fine, I told you HTML is very important, right? Selenium goes into the page source and it basically works on the page source. So I'll be continuing from there today, right? So we had made a lot of files yesterday, and in the end I had made this file browsers, wherein I had shown you how can you work with different browsers, right? By just changing one parameter, you can work with different browsers. Fine. I again repeat, if anybody has got any questions during the training, you can move your mouse to the top of the window. There will be a participants section. You can click on that, and in front of your name you can click on the red icon and unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can use the WebEx chat. You move your mouse to the top, there is a WebEx chat available, or you can ping me on Skype as well. I am online on Skype. Fine. So I'll create a new project today called as Day2, and I'll continue forward. And today I'll talk about how Selenium works basically. Suppose you are navigated to some web page and you want to click on a link on that web page, or you want to read a text and also. So there are a lot of things which you can do on a web page, right? So how Selenium works? Basically, out here in my say H drive, I'll make a new Excel file. Fine, I'll name this Excel file as html.xlsx. Right. Now, knowledge of HTML is quite important as far as learning Selenium is concerned. Okay. Now in HTML you have, like, these are the components, right, which you deal with on the regular basis, right? You as an end user, you deal with, sometimes you have links with you, sometimes you have drop lists with you, you have got a button, right? You have got text fields on a page, right? You have got checkbox, okay, you have got a radio button. Fine. Then again you have at times you have to come across normal text on the web page, which is the regular text on the page. Fine. Apart from this, you have got images, right? So these are the components which are visible to the human eye. Fine. But there are other components as well, like a web table is there, okay, frames are there on the pages, right? These two components, they are not visible to the normal human eye, right? But they are there. Okay, so let's talk about these components, how Selenium can identify these components. So, well, each of these components have a set of, you can say, they have a tag name in HTML, okay, they have set of mandatory attributes, and they have a set of optional attributes. Fine. Now this understanding is very important, because Selenium will work on the basis of the page source. It will go into the page source and it will work. Fine. So now what is the tag name, what are mandatory attributes, what are optional attributes? Let's see that thing. Fine. Suppose I open up Mozilla and I move to a site, say bbc.com. Fine. I am going here. Look, I am not teaching you IDE here. Okay. IDE is a very simple tool. Fine. It's not so tough to learn. Plus, it only works on Mozilla. And if you go to real Selenium guys who actually do the Selenium testing and all, nobody works on IDE. Okay. And right. Just a minute. Right. Now, out here on this page, fine, if you go to the page source, you will see that this is the page source, and in the page source you will see the HTML language. HTML language starts from the HTML tag, and in the end, at the very bottom of the page, you will see this tag closing. Fine. In this tag there are many other tags. All these things which are there in the conical brackets are the tags. Fine. Now every tag, okay, suppose this is the tag called DD. Fine. It has a set of attributes. For example, class out here is an attribute for a tag. For example, this is anchor tag. This represents a link. It has an attribute called REB and it has an attribute called href. Fine. So every tag has a tag name. This tag has a tag name A. REB and href are the attributes of this tag. Fine. Similarly, okay, you can, like for example, to actually analyze the page in a better way, fine, it's good that you install Firebug on your Mozilla. Okay, I'll go to google.com and I type over here download Firebug. Okay, and you can get Firebug. It's an add-on for Firefox. You can click out here. Make sure that you open it in Mozilla. Right? It's an add-on in Mozilla. It helps you to investigate page source. And you can click on Add to Firefox button over here. Some installation will take place. Your Mozilla will restart, and when it restarts, you will see an icon over here. This icon. This icon is a Firebug. This Firebug helps you to analyze your web page in a better way in Mozilla. So when you click on this icon, this kind of window will come up. Inside tools in Mozilla, you will again see Firebug out here. Okay, right? So in Firebug, you have got this icon over here. This is an arrow, small arrow, right? When you click on this arrow and move your mouse over the elements, fine, you will see that the elements are highlighted in the page source. Okay, the elements, they will be highlighted in the page source. For example, this Add to Firefox button. Fine, this will be highlighted in the page source. Right, if I move my mouse over this, something like SPY in QTP, but not exactly SPY. It's not so sophisticated like SPY in QTP. Fine. Now, this anchor tag over here has a class associated with it. Fine. So this is the tag name and this is the class. So you can also investigate the page source with the help of Firebug. This will prove out to be very handy, and it will prove out to be very, very useful when we work with Selenium. Fine. Now, how can we identify elements? That's the question. Right. Let's study each and every HTML component first. Let's study a link first. A link will always have a tag name called as A, anchor tag. Okay, and just a minute. I request everybody to keep yourself on mute so that there is no noise in the recording. Right. So this is the tag name A associated with the link. Similarly, in case of a drop list, fine, if there is a drop down, suppose I am on the site, say timesofindia.com. Fine. This is a news website in India, so this is a drop list on this page. Fine. If you analyze this drop list in Firebug, if I open up my Firebug and I click on this arrow out here, and if I look at this drop list, then this drop list has a tag called select tag. Okay, so you can go here and out here you can write the drop list has a tag called select. Fine. Similarly, we'll investigate a button as well. Okay, for example, on the same page, hold on. Suppose you are on the home page of gmail.com, right? This is the sign in button out here. If I investigate this sign in button, then a button has got a tag name as input. Okay, so I'll write over here the tag name for button is input. Fine. In case of a text field, this is a text field, username is a text field, you will always have the tag name as input. In case of a text field as well, the tag name is input. In case of a checkbox, the tag name is input. Radio button has also got the same tag name, that is input. Okay, so button, text field, checkbox and radio button, all of them have the same tag name, that is input, right? And a normal text on a page. A normal text on a page can have any tag, like para tag is there, div tag is there, label is there, right? Then sometimes you have got span, h1, h2, h3. There are many tags. Okay, there are many tags which can represent a text. There is no specific one tag. Okay, and image on a page. For example, this page. If you look at this Google, this is an image. Image will always have a tag name called img. Okay, so the image has got tag name called img. So these are the various tags of various HTML components on the web page. Okay, now every tag, right, every tag represents one component, right? But the input tag over here represents 4 components. Nothing to worry, I'll tell you how to distinguish, right? Let's talk about the anchor tag first. An anchor tag on a page, for example, this link over here, learn more, or this particular link called can't access your account. If you look at this link, then this is an anchor tag. It's got an attribute named as ID. It's got an attribute called target, href, right? So these are the 3 attributes, ID, target and href, associated with this anchor tag. Fine. Out of these, if the developer doesn't give ID, it's fine. If it doesn't give target, it's fine. But href attribute is very, very important. Href attribute denotes the link which will open when you click on this link. Okay, this is a mandatory attribute in case of a link. So in case of a link, href attribute is mandatory. It is mandatory to write href attribute in case of a link. In case of a drop list, okay, in case of a drop list, the tag name is select. Fine. For example, on this page, this is a list. At the bottom of the page, you have this list. Okay. If you look at this list in Firebug, you will have this thing. This list has an attribute called as ID. Hold on. Yeah. And it has an attribute called as class and style. Right. In list, there are no mandatory attributes. Always remember, in case of a list, there are no mandatory attributes. So you just have the tag name over here. In case of a button, fine. For example, there is a button over here, sign in button. Okay. If you look at the button over here, right, this is the tag name input, ID, class, type, value and name. These are the attributes associated with it. The value attribute denotes what is written on the button. See, on the button it is written sign in. Right? For example, talking again, if you go to my website qtpselenium.com and you click on the image member login over here, after that login to Selenium videos account, this is the button login on this page. Right? So if you see this login button, right, you will see that it's got two attributes, type and value. Value denotes what is written on the button, and type equals to submit means this is an input tag. Type equals to submit denotes it's a button. So type equals to submit attribute is a mandatory attribute. Find type equals to submit is a mandatory attribute in case of a button. The value is not a mandatory attribute. If I don't give it, some default text will be written on the button. But type is equal to submit is very important. Similarly, in case of a text field, if you have a text field, you can have any number of attributes like type and name are two attributes over here. In case of a Gmail username field, if you look at the Gmail username field out here, you will see that ID, type, value, name, spell check, these are the attributes out here. Okay, right? So out here, the type attribute is important. The type equals to text attribute in case of a text field tells you it's a text field. Okay, in case of a checkbox, we have an attribute called type equals to checkbox, and in case of a radio button, you have type equals to radio. So although all the elements have the same tag name, they have the different value of the mandatory attribute type. Okay, a text, it depends. It's not mandatory. There is no mandatory attribute for a text. Okay, it can be under any of these tags. For example, a text like login with your username and password. Okay, if I look at this text, this is the text over here. It's actually in a div tag with class make order. Or if I look in Gmail, if I look at this particular text, Gmail is built on the idea that email can be more intuitive, efficient. Then this is inside this para tag. There is no attribute with para tag. There is no class ID type. Nothing is there. It's not mandatory. Fine. So in case of image, right? If you look at, suppose if you look at the Google image, fine, this image over here, Google image, you will find that there is an attribute called class alt source. Source attribute is mandatory in case of an image. It denotes the URL. Okay, out here it denotes the URL from which the image would be coming. Right, for example, if I copy this URL, hold on, so let me copy it. Right, and I open up this URL out here. You see that this Google image is coming from here. Okay, so this source represents the location from which the image is getting loaded. So this source attribute is mandatory in case of an image. Okay, now optional attribute can be any one of these: ID, name, class, right, value, then you have alt, style, right? Generally ID, name and class, these are the major ones which we use, and these can be present with any of these components. Okay, these, just a minute, I think somebody is messaging me. No, right. So these are the attributes, right, which are present for, which can be present, not mandatory, but they can be present for any of these components out here. So for example, there is a button on a page, you need to click on it. You can say that, you can tell Selenium there is an object with a tag name input, right? whose type is submit or whose ID is this or whose name is this if the developer has given the name ID class. Generally these days the developers, they give name, IDs or class to the elements with which we can identify. If the developers, this happens generally, this happens in the websites today. The developers, they are quite smart and matured enough to give IDs and all. But yes, generally they, in case many times you will not find any ID, name, class or any other attribute, then you have to use some other way to identify it. Right, now let's go to Selenium, right, and let's do a simple program that is, say you need to go to my website qtpselenium.com. okay, after going to my website you need to click on member login over here. After clicking on member login, you need to click on login into Selenium videos account and then enter the username, password and try to log in. Okay, let's do this simple exercise and we'll see different ways of doing this. I'll create a new class, right, and I will call it, hold on, just hold on. Or let's do one thing, let's not do this thing right now. Okay, it will be a little tough to understand for you guys because in my application I haven't given ID and all to any object. Let's go to Gmail and try to do it on Gmail. Right, enter simple, enter username, password on Gmail and click on the sign in button. Right, now you can make a class called as gmail.java out here and you can write simply WebDriver driver equals to new Firefox driver, then driver dot. Okay, I did not include the jar files of Selenium in this project, right? So I need to go into the library section and add the jar files of Selenium which I have downloaded on my machine. Right, and you need to write driver.get http gmail.com. So this will take me to Gmail simply. Right, now after going to Gmail I need to enter something in the username field, something in the password field, click on the sign in button. Right, now to do this, okay, let's go to the documentation of Selenium. I'll go to the documentation of Selenium. I just type download Selenium over here and go to this link, right, and out here you have the Java docs. Fine, this is the documentation of Selenium. Okay, now what we are doing is every time we are going into the documentation of Selenium and we are reading what this documentation does, what is done by which class and all, everything. Okay, there is a way in which you can also import the documentation into Eclipse. Right, I'll tell you that way, but firstly what I'm going to tell you is about the WebDriver interface. In the WebDriver interface you have a function called as find element. Okay, this find element function, right, is used to find the first web element by using this method. Like what it does, it finds a web element on a page. Now what do you mean by web element? Don't confuse this with the web element of QTP. Okay, web element of QTP is very different, right, than the web element of Selenium. Okay, basically in Selenium everything is a, Selenium tells you that everything is a web element. Okay, this Hold on guys, I'll just give him the link to join the training. Right. Now every button is a web element in Selenium, every link is a web element, everything on a page is a web element. This text is also known as a web element technically. This image is also a web element, right? So this find element function in the WebDriver interface means that you need to find an element on a page, right? So okay, guys, you have every day, every meeting will have a new URL. Okay, every meeting has a new URL, right? So now, if I go ahead and if I write a driver dot, I get this function out here as well, find element. Now I have to give some criteria to find an element, right? First of all, what I'll do is I will import the documentation of Selenium in Eclipse so that I don't have to go here and there again and again, right? So what I'll do is I'll import the documentation of Eclipse in Selenium. To import the documentation of Eclipse in Selenium, you need to go on this page, and on this page you have the Java doc link, right? You right click on this link and select the option copy link location. Fine. You copy the link location and you go here in your Day2 project, right click on the project, go to the properties. Fine. In your properties you will have this Selenium jar, Selenium Java 2.24.1.jar. In this you have the Java doc location option over here. You simply paste this link out here and remove index.html. I'll again repeat, you need to open up the project, go to the Java build path in project properties under library, right, and go to Selenium Java 2.25 or whatever is the jar file which you have downloaded, expand it, click on Java doc location, edit and paste the URL. In the URL, remove index.html from the end and click on OK. OK, and that's it. Now documentation of Selenium has been imported. If now I move my mouse over say WebDriver, right, I will get what this WebDriver is doing. It is an interface WebDriver. Rather, I will get the complete documentation of WebDriver interface in Eclipse. Similarly, if I move my mouse over say find element function, I'll get the description of this function, what it is doing. Okay, so this is very handy. Every time you really don't have to go here and there inside a WebDriver or you don't have to really go inside the documentation, and you can 80% of the work you can do from here, but sometimes there is a need that you need to go into the documentation and you go there. Okay, right. Now,
yeah, Ashish, a quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually the documentation you downloaded it and then gave the path in the Java build path properties, right?
No, I gave an online path.
Oh, online path. Okay.
I
I
copied.
just missed
This is
it.
the path which I copied.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. This is the path which I.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And because I missed the morning session, I'll just take it from the recorded. I think so.
Okay, fine. Right.
Okay. Thank you, Ashish.
Thank you. Right. Now, out here, I told you driver.find element will find an element on the page, right? Now there is a class called by. This is an internal class in Selenium. If you go to the documentation, there is a class called by. This class is basically used to actually, this class basically contains various kinds of locator strategies, right? It has got various mechanisms to locate elements within a documentation. Number of mechanisms. For example, you can identify an element by class name, by CSS selector, by ID, link text, name, partial link text, tag name, XPATHS. Now, out of all of these options, you would be able to understand some of them, like we studied what ID is. I told you class is an optional attribute, right? It can be used. Name is an optional attribute. Okay, tag name, fine. So these are the ways in which you can identify them, find the elements, right? So when you write driver.find element, this function find element requires you to pass over the locator strategy in it. So you have to write by which criteria? By the class name, by dot. This by class has got everything static inside it. That's why when you write by dot, you can access everything inside this class. Yesterday I told you, right, what a static stuff is. Static stuff is something which you can directly access with class name dot static variable or function name. So that's what we are doing. By is an internal class in Selenium. When you write by dot, you get all the options with which you can identify the element. For example, I write by ID. Fine. By ID, okay. In gmail.com, if I want to identify the username field, if I look at the username field, then I am lucky enough because the developer has given this field an ID. So if I give this over here, this will find an element on the basis of the ID, email. So basically this will find an input box, right, representing username. Now in the input box I need to write something as well. Okay, in the input box I just found the input box, I have not written anything inside it. Now in your WebDriver interface, I told you that in your WebDriver interface you have this function find element, right? Just hold on, let it load. This documentation is getting a little slow out here. Right, this is a WebDriver interface and inside it you have the find element function. Right, this find element function sends you back object of an interface called web element. Web element is again a different interface in this complete Selenium API. In Selenium, web element is a different interface which the reference of this interface is returned by the find element function. And this interface has got general functions which you can do with any web element on a page, like button, link, text. For example, clear, click, get location, get size, get tag name, get text is displayed. So these are some of the general things which you can do with an element on a page. For example, I can write over here web element username is equal to this. So find element function will return you the object reference of the web element interface, right? With this web element interface, right, you can write username dot, right? You can do anything with the username field. You can clear it, you can click on it, say I want to write something in it. Okay, to write something in a text field, you have to use this function send keys. Send keys, the definition says that use this method to simulate typing into an element which may set its value, right? So if you write over here username dot send keys, or say any username, So this will write this thing in the username field. Okay, if I run this code, if you are not able to understand, please feel free to ask questions, please feel free to interrupt. You can talk and ask a question. If you don't have mic, then you can simply write on the WebEx chat and ask a question. You see that it writes something inside this field. Right, now I'll just close this. Fine. Similarly, I can find a web element password equals to driver dot find element by the ID, and I can give the ID of the password field, provided the developer has given an ID to password field. In Gmail he has given it. Fine. See, the ID is PASSWD for password field. So you can write over here by the ID password, and then in password dot send keys send password. Yeah, Akram, do you want to ask a question?
That's right.
Yeah, Ryan.
Yeah, actually, what's the difference between the driver dot get element and the WebDriver? Sorry, that web element you said. So I just missed that.
I cannot get you. The
No,
difference.
yeah, driver dot find element. You can directly take the driver dot find element and find the element and input the information in the text box. But you're using web element username. You're storing it in
Yes.
some object, right?
Yeah, this is the object reference of web element. Driver dot find element. Find element function according to the documentation, right? It returns you back a web element object.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, it returns you back this web element, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
So we should focus on implementing that, not implementing, using that web element and store the information, whatever we get from the driver dot find element, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Does that make sense or?
Yeah. Fine. That makes sense.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. So
Hi,
now,
Ashish.
tell me. Tell me.
Hello, Ashish. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So now here we can use username dot get whatever it is. For example, whatever is the name of the text box. Can we get that username dot get name or whatever is the properties? We'll be able to retrieve it, right? Which developer has given.
Yes, you can retrieve any of the properties. For example,
Okay.
this is the text box, right?
Yeah.
You want to retrieve ID, type. You can do that. I'll talk about that as well.
Okay.
You can retrieve any of the properties, any attribute. Okay.
Okay. What is the difference between type and name? Any idea?
What is the difference between?
Type and the different tags. Type and name.
Yeah, type tells you what kind of element it is. If you look at it out here, okay, in case the type is, if the tag name is input and the type is submit, right?
Okay.
Then it becomes a button.
Okay.
If its tag name is input, type is text, then it becomes an input box.
Okay. Earlier, because for one of the buttons, I think it was there was two fields with two tags with same name. I mean name and I think something else. Both had same type and this one, this sign in. You see, value is sign in and name is also sign in. So
No,
what is the
value,
difference?
both of them don't have the same. The
Okay.
value sign is
Got it.
written on the button.
Okay.
Name is given by the developer.
Okay. And do we use this name in our automation?
Yes, we do. Now, for example, what the developer has done is, in the username field over here, he has given a name to the username field as well.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
what you can do is you can write this thing over here. You can write web element username equals to driver dot find element by
Name.
you see you have the option over here called as name. Okay,
Okay.
by the name email. So this will also work. Okay,
This best practice would be to use ID, or like what will be the case?
it depends. It depends. Like I would prefer if look, I prefer XPATHS to be honest, right? I'll talk about XPATHS in some time.
But ID is unique, right? I guess I'm not sure.
It is unique, but sometimes what happens is that the developers are such that they give same IDs to different elements as well. For example, the student of mine came up with a problem on this website, quicker.com. Right over here, select city. Then every city over here has the same ID. This is header city Agra. If I select another city like Bangalore, then it is also got the same ID. So all the cities have been given same ID. So now how to select the third city over here with the ID header city? So all that things you can also do with Selenium. Right? We'll talk about that. Generally the ID is unique. If the developer is good, he will give a unique ID for every element. Okay? But sometimes you do not get IDs. For example, the text over here, if you want to read this text with Selenium and you want to print it, what the text is. If I look in Firebug, then this text is inside a para tag. Now this para tag has got no ID, no class, nothing, no attribute at all. So how do you identify this element? Okay, so we will talk about that as well. And so there are situations which you can come across, or for example a situation like a Facebook. If you go to Facebook login page and if you observe the login button over here, this login button has got this ID. Okay, I'll copy the ID and I'll open a notepad. I'll paste the ID here. Fine. I'll close this and open a new browser and again go to facebook.com. Again I will look at the button. Fine. This is the button, this is the ID, and I'll get the ID over here. You see that the ID has changed. Earlier I was getting this ID, now I am getting the other ID. So the ID has actually changed. So you have got these kind of scenarios as well. Fine. So I'll be talking about all these scenarios in the course. Gradually we will be studying everything. Fine. So how to handle such things? But first let us look at simpler things. That is, suppose you are just on the home page. How do you identify the username and password field? You can identify by name or by ID. If I run this code, this will go on the page and it will write the name and the password. It will enter the username and password. Fine. Now after entering the username password, suppose I want to click on this link. I'll not click on the sign in link because I really don't want to unnecessarily use an automation tool on Gmail. They detect it, right? So if I look at this link, can't access your account. Fine. This is a link, it's got an ID called link forgot password. If I want to click on it, I can write over here web element forgot password equals to driver dot find element by the ID, this, and then forgot password. E in web element is always capital. Please remember that, right? So forgot password dot click. You click on that link, and if you run this code, it will go to Gmail. It will enter username password, and it will click on password. Yeah, Akram, any questions?
Ashish, why did you not select that by link? You selected by ID, right? So that is link. Why didn't you select
I
link?
can also select it by link text. That's not a problem. Or partial link text. You can use anything.
Oh, it works the same?
Yeah, it works the same.
Okay, okay. And a quick question, Ashish, are we going to discuss about the CSS also,
Yes.
like XPATHS? Are we going to?
That's
Oh,
what
okay.
I'm going to discuss right now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Now, to deal with one element, okay, I have to write 2 lines of code if you look at this carefully. First I detect the element and then I use it. I detect it on this line, then I use it. Fine. So what we can do is, we can do the whole procedure in one line itself. I can write driver.find element by the name email. What this line will do, this will find the username field. In the end, you write dot send keys, the username which you want to type in. Fine. So the execution starts from the left side. It first finds the element email and then types username in it. Fine. After that, you write driver.find element by the name password and dot send keys from password in it. Okay, right? And in the end, you can write driver dot find element by the ID this link, okay, and dot click on it. Right? So I just have to write one line to handle one element instead of 2 lines. But this is also quite important. Remember, right? Remember, when you write driver.find element, you get an object of web element, and with web element you can perform any of these operations. Is displayed, is enabled, is selected, right? Then get text, get name, get size, get location, right? For example, the get location. Get location, let's look at get location. It's not so important, but I'm telling you this because you should be knowing how to navigate through the Java docs, right? Suppose you want to find XY coordinates for an object. Fine, there's an object on the page and you want to find the X and Y coordinates of that object on the page. Okay, if I go to Java docs and I look at the Java docs for the WebDriver interface. Hold on. You won't need to find location many times, but just telling you a small example how to navigate through Java docs. Right? Now, in driver.find element, this gives you an object of web element. Okay, and just a minute. Yeah, and web element out here has got a function called get location. Get location returns you the object of class called point. Okay, for example, instead of clicking on this link, I need to find the position of this link, right? So I'll write over here driver.find element. This will give me the web element. Fine. In web element, right? In web element, you have a function called get location. So I write over here get the location of the element, and this will return you the object of the point. Hold on. Let this open and click on it. It will return the object of the point class. So you can write over here point p equals to this, right? And point class has got 2 fields, x and y. So if I write over here system.out.println, this is the object reference of the point object which is returned by get location. So if I write p.x and p.y, you will have x and y both. It will print the x and y coordinates of this link. If you run this, you see that x is 617 on my screen, y is 356, right? So you can use, or you can navigate through Java docs. You can read the Java docs like this and you can work with it, right? Now, many times look, the name, ID and all are not present with the object. Okay. Now these kind of locator strategies, name, ID, and yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, we use the point class, right? Now, for example, if we don't, because I should know that there is a class called point class, but if I don't use the point class and just doesn't the coordinates of x and y gets returned to the variable p if I use just p is equal to driver.findElement without the class pointer?
No, that's what I did, right? Okay, I got the reference from here. I got the reference that get location is giving you the object of the point class. It is not returning you a string, boolean or integer.
Okay.
Okay. I got that it returns me the object reference of point class. So I go inside this point class, and inside this point class I see that every object has a x and y coordinate.
Okay.
Right?
It automatically doesn't become a point class. The p doesn't become a point class.
P is a point class object.
No, only unless because we declared it as point class, it becomes a point class, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
This is object reference. This is the same reference which we talked about yesterday. This is the point object and P is pointing towards it. The only thing is the point object is returned by this internal function. Okay.
And another doubt. So this, by using coordinates, sometimes if the image, the location of the object gets changed, this will impact during the runtime, right?
Yes, this will certainly impact. Okay, that's why I told you, you might not need this thing so regularly.
Yeah, I understand. You're just
because if your screen resolution changes,
yeah,
then this will be affected.
Yeah.
So now, fine. Now at times you will not get objects with so simple criteria like name, ID and all everything, because for developers also it becomes very tough to give unique name and ID for every object. Okay, so at that point of time you can use these options like CSS selectors and XPATHS and all to detect the elements. Fine. Now what is an XPath? Let's start with XPath. You can say XPath is like, yeah, Akram, tell me.
Yes, a quick question. Actually, when we take that an object of like a web element and then we find location, what's the difference between that and the point p equal to get location?
Can you just repeat that one?
Okay. No, if we take web element p equal and get the location, and the point p equal to get location, so does that not take x and y coordinates in web element p equal to get location? No, instead of, what I mean is instead of point p equal to driver.findElement, if we say web element p equal
web element is not returned by get location function,
because it is within that web.
This is the web element. It is happening. It is happening something like this. Web element link is equal to this thing, right? And then I am writing link dot get location. This is returning me point. Okay.
Okay.
right? And then I write t.x. Right? I can complete the whole story in one line as well. I can write driver.find element. This will find the web element. Dot get location. This will be the object of point. Dot x will give me the x coordinate. If I print this,
Right.
it will print the x coordinate. Okay.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
All these lines, they can be written in one line. So generally we do it like this only when we do it practically. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Ashish.